Welcome back to our channel, viewers and subscribers. In today's video we update you on the latest reports from the European Union regarding the Citizenship-by-Investment CBI programs in the Eastern Caribbean. So let's jump right in. Recent reports indicate that the European Union has taken a significant step toward potentially eliminating visa-free travel privileges for several Caribbean nations that operate Citizenship-by-Investment, or CBI programs. On March 19, 2025, the European Parliament's Committee on Civil Liberties, Justice and Home Affairs, LIBE, voted decisively in favor of amendments to EU visa regulations that specifically target countries offering golden passports to wealthy investors. The proposal, which passed with 41 votes in favor and 10 against, will have far-reaching consequences for the economies of Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Saint Lucia, all of which rely heavily on their CBI programs for economic sustenance. The EU's growing concerns over Caribbean CBI programs. The European Union has been increasingly vocal about its concerns regarding citizenship-by-investment schemes, particularly those operated by Caribbean nations. These programs, often referred to as golden passport schemes, allow wealthy foreign nationals to obtain citizenship in exchange for significant financial investments, with minimum contributions typically starting at $100,000 to $250,000. The primary concern raised by EU officials centers on what they perceive as inadequate vetting, due diligence, and security checks that could potentially facilitate money laundering, tax evasion, and other criminal activities. The EU Parliament's report explicitly states that visa-free travel should not be used to attract investors by offering citizenship and warns that a lack of thorough background checks by CBI nations could pose serious security risks for Union citizens. The European Commission has been particularly critical of what it calls citizenship granted without any genuine link to the third country concerned, suggesting that these programs are primarily tools for leveraging investment rather than fostering authentic national connections. Security and immigration concerns. During meetings in January 2024 between EU representatives and officials from the 5 Caribbean CBI countries, the EU expressed apprehension about potential national security and immigration risks associated with granting citizenship to individuals who might not otherwise qualify for visa-free entry to Europe. Of particular concern to the EU is the high-volume, low-cost model that has been adopted by some Caribbean nations in recent years. Dominica, for example, had reportedly issued 34,500 passports through its CBI program as of late 2023, which was 39% of the total of 88,000 passports sold across all 5 Caribbean CBI countries at that point. The EU has also highlighted concerns about discounting practices that further reduce the already competitive pricing of these programs, potentially attracting less desirable applicants. According to reports from the meetings, the EU specifically cited problematic developments such as questionable real estate projects in St. Kitts linked to developer Caribbean Galaxy, which has also secured CBI units in Saint Lucia. New regulatory framework and suspension mechanism. The amendments approved by the LIBE Committee would update the EU's visa suspension mechanism to explicitly include the operation of CBI programs as grounds for suspending visa-free travel privileges. Under the updated mechanism, the EU would be able to suspend the visa-free regime on several new grounds, including the operation of an investor citizenship scheme, whereby citizenship is granted without any genuine link to the third country concerned, in exchange for predetermined payments or investments. This is a textbook definition of the Caribbean CBI program. These new provisions would join existing grounds for suspension, which include substantial increases in the number of nationals refused entry or found overstaying, increases in unfounded asylum applications, decreased cooperation on readmission of people asked to leave EU territory, and risks to public policy or internal security. The report from the LIBE Committee acknowledges the sovereign rights of countries over citizenship matters but insists that nations should be deterred from using visa-free access to the Union as a tool for leveraging individual investment for citizenship. This development builds upon efforts that began in October 2023, when the European Commission first proposed adding CBI programs as grounds for suspending visa-free access. Economic impact on Caribbean nations. The potential suspension of visa-free access to the EU would represent a severe economic blow to the Caribbean nations that have come to rely heavily on their CBI programs. These programs contribute significantly to national GDPs and fund essential sectors including infrastructure, education, and healthcare. St. Kitts and Nevis pioneered the world's first CBI program in 1984, and along with the other 4 Caribbean nations, has positioned its citizenship scheme as a gateway to visa-free travel in the Schengen area. The loss of this privilege would likely undermine investor confidence, potentially leading to steep declines in CBI applications and consequently reduced revenue for these nations. Nuri Katz, president for Apex Capital Partners, a licensed agent for CIP programs worldwide, has warned that any move to phase out CBI programs in Dominica and other Caribbean countries could lead to the collapse of their economies. He specifically pointed to Dominica's international airport, which is being built using CBI funds, as an example of the kind of development that could be jeopardized. Caribbean response and adaptation measures. In response to mounting pressure from the EU, Caribbean nations with CBI programs have taken significant steps to address concerns and preserve their visa-free access to Europe. In March 2024, for OECS countries, Dominica, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Grenada, signed a memorandum of understanding aimed at strengthening their CBI programs. The agreement includes commitments to 1. Increase the minimum threshold of their CBI programs to at least $200,000 by June 30, 2024, up from as low as $100,000 previously. 2. Implement uniform legislation across all participating countries. 3. Standardize application forms and due diligence processes. 4. Enhance information sharing regarding program applicants. 5. Establish a regional regulator initiative. 6. Suspend Russian applicants amid geopolitical concerns. These enhancement measures have since been implemented by all 5 countries concerned. Individual countries have also taken their own measures. St. Kitts and Nevis, for example, has doubled its real estate investment requirement to $400,000 and increased its state fund contribution to $250,000 for a single applicant. The country has also introduced mandatory interviews for applicants and requires passports to be collected in person either in St. Kitts or at a diplomatic mission abroad. Speaking to the local press on March 31, 2025, Saint Lucia's investment minister, Dr. Ernest Hilaire, gave his reaction to the new developments from the EU.
What the EU is doing now, the EU is saying, look, we have noticed that we've recognized the possibility for people with CIP citizenships to come into the EU and seek asylum. And therefore, because they have visa-free access, they can come in, and when they are in, they will claim asylum. So we want to put measures in place. If that should happen, then we can serve notice that, look, there is an escalation in persons with CIP passports seeking asylum, if it happens, and to alert the countries to do something about it, and if they do nothing about it, then to waive visa-free access. So what the EU is doing really is to add CIP to the existing list of persons that can qualify, can be asked to, countries that can be asked to take action because their citizens are violating the rules of the EU.
For clarification, the acronym CIP used by Dr. Hilaire in the preceding clip stands for Citizenship-by-Investment Program, which is the same as CBI, Citizen by Investment. Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit had earlier indicated that his country has, quote, taken some very comprehensive measures to allay and to set aside the concerns of the European Union and other partners, unquote. Following a January 2024 meeting with EU officials, Skerrit claimed that the EU delegation left with a better mindset than when they came after conducting audits of Dominica's CBI unit, Immigration Department, and Financial Intelligence Unit. However, it appears that none of the measures implemented to date meets the EU's core concern that Caribbean CBI countries, quote, should be deterred from using visa-free access to the Union as a tool for leveraging individual investment for citizenship, unquote. Next steps in the EU legislative process. Despite Caribbean efforts to address concerns, the EU appears to be moving forward with its regulatory changes. Following the LIBE Committee's approval, the proposal must now complete several more steps before becoming law. 1. The full European Parliament must vote on the committee's text in a plenary session. 2. Parliament and the European Council must negotiate and agree on a final version through a process known as trilogue, an interinstitutional negotiation used in the EU legislative process. 3. If both institutions formally approve the unified text, officials would sign it and publish it in the official journal of the EU, making it binding law across all member states, regardless of individual countries' existing legislation. The EU has already established a precedent for such action. Since 2013, the visa suspension mechanism has been triggered once, against Vanuatu, due to EU's concerns of its operation of investor citizenship schemes. The Pacific nation saw its visa exemption partially suspended in March 2022 and fully suspended in November 2024. Parallel concerns from the United States. The EU's actions mirror similar concerns raised by the United States regarding CBI programs in the Caribbean. In March 2025, reports emerged that the Trump administration was considering implementing new travel restrictions that could affect 6 Caribbean nations: Saint Lucia, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis, Haiti, and Cuba. According to these reports, countries have been categorized into 3 levels of restrictions: a red list, where travel would be completely banned, an orange list, which would impose severe visa restrictions, and a yellow list, where nations have been given 60 days to address specific security concerns or face possible escalation to the other 2 categories. Cuba and Haiti were placed on the red and orange lists respectively, while 4 Eastern Caribbean nations with CBI programs listed previously allegedly fell under the yellow list. This categorization is supposedly based on concerns about inadequate security practices for issuing passports, insufficient information sharing on travelers, or the selling of citizenship to people from banned countries. Like the EU, the US has raised concerns that such programs could be exploited to bypass existing travel restrictions. And while the affected countries promptly requested clarification on this matter, the continued silence from the US to date is deafening, and may be further cause for concern. See our previous videos on this topic at the link provided in the video description below. Conclusion: uncertain future for Caribbean CBI programs. The EU's move toward restricting visa-free travel for Caribbean CBI nations represents a significant challenge to programs that have become economic lifelines for these small island states. While Caribbean nations have taken substantial steps to address international concerns about their CBI programs, the EU appears determined to implement stronger regulatory measures to protect the security of the Schengen zone. Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who has long opposed citizenship-by-investment programs, claimed in 2023 that the European Commission had already told Caribbean prime ministers that the revocation of visa-free privileges was inevitable. According to Gonsalves, EU representatives stated that, quote, "It is not a matter of if this thing is happening. It's a question of when we are going to bring down the hammer, and the hammer is coming down shortly," unquote. As the legislative process continues, Caribbean nations must balance maintaining their economically vital CBI programs with implementing the reforms necessary to address international security concerns. The outcome will have significant implications not only for the economic future of these nations but also for the global landscape of investment migration programs. What do you think of these new developments? Are the rewards of our CBI program greater than the potential risks, or will it kill the goose that lays the golden eggs? Sound off in the comments below. Also, remember to like and share this video, and subscribe to our channel for more information on this and other topics. See you in the next video.